Welcome to the 9th episode of the BestYou channel. My name is Mimi Picasso. I'm an engineer in computer science, a designer, an entrepreneur, and among other things, I love biotech, biomedicine, and all those hacks that make us have a greater, longer, and safer life. And starting today, I'm gonna say that this episode is gonna be the first of a series of episodes talking about supplementation, one of each every episode. And the first one, and the one that I love most, is my favorite, is the number one supplement that I would recommend to anyone at any age. And let's put a parenthesis there, but it's the supplement that I will tell anybody to take with any condition, any healthy condition or not. It's the following one, and it's called NAC or N-Acetyl Cysteine. Yes, that's the number one supplement that I'll be talking about, and I will tell you why. It's my favorite. I love NAC because it's a supplement that really goes to the core of everything. It's the number one thing that I take every morning. So I just wake up and it's the first thing I just think of, taking my NAC supplementation. I do it first thing in the morning. Nothing else goes between me and my NAC. It's the first thing that I want to do. Why? Because this supplementation not only will help just one side of my body, it help the whole. It's this little pill that, or powder, because you can take it as a powder as well, that will really boost your day and will help your body 100% everywhere. That's why it's my number one supplementation, and that's the one that I would recommend to everyone at any age and with any condition to take. And I will tell you right now why. So Nac N-Acetyl Cysteine is this supplement that, if you are scared to take something that your body doesn't understand, well, guess what? We already create NAC inside our bodies through L-Cis. What is L-Cis? L-cysteine is an amino acid that we generate, that we have already in our body, that then becomes L-cysteine, N-acetyl cysteine. And N-acetyl cysteine we created inside our body. So it's, when you take NAC supplementation, it's very bioavailable to your body. Your body feels like it's part of it, so it'll take it immediately and it works. N-acetyl cysteine is my number one favorite because it does, to me, two things that I will explain first, and then I will tell you the whole spectrum of things, conditions, and problems that help in our body. But first, why I love NAC N-acetyl cysteine so much? Because NAC, one thing that does, and does best, is that helps this little guy that we have here. It's a little guy that is like a little motor that we have inside our brains. It's that wonderful because it gives energy to our whole body. It helps repair the whole body. It's just a boost of energy, and it's called mitochondria. We all have mitochondria in our brain, and these mitochondria are very small. They're organelles that live inside our brain. And it's fun fact, they don't have our same DNA. So let's say they are not humans. Long time, million years ago, the first animals, let's say, or the first self that were alive, there were these bacteria and organisms, and these organelles come from that time. So they are inside our brains without having our same DNA. They have different same DNA. So let's say they are not us, but they are part of us. So they got inside our the nucleus, and they are there, and they have this very well function that is primary to our body, and how our body reacts, how our body lives, how long we live, and the mitochondria gives energy to the body, so it creates that energy, and there is a sort of mechanism with the ATP and whatsoever that we will explain in another episode. But so right now, why NAC is so important, because it goes directly to help our mitochondria. And the mitochondria is the #1 little guy that you need to help all the way, any day, anytime. There are so many ways to uncouple our mitochondria and to help the mitochondria, but we will talk about in another episode specifically only about mitochondria, and there's so many ways that we can help our mitochondria be that little guy that will help the rest of our body in a great way to help us recover of anything. And that's why of the first and very important reasons I recommend NAC so much, and that's why I take it, because I know it's helping my mitochondria. And given that fact that if the mitochondria can give the level of energy your whole body wants and your whole body needs, because there are so many parts in our body that we need to recover in a daily basis, being exposed to the sun, being exposed to smoke from cars, being exposed to many toxins around, right? The foods that we eat. I know so many people try to have healthy lifestyles. This week I ate bad, I have to say, but then I'm taking my NAC. So whenever you know you're not gonna have the healthy life or foods that you need in the day, the supplementations, among others, are so good to help your body react and not oxidize, because that's the other problem. When our body starts oxidizing itself in different cells, in different organs and different parts of our body, then we are stuck. So NAC is very good at giving our body that boost, that level of energy we need to fight this. And the second part, and it's all related always in our body, why I love NAC so much and it's my favorite supplement, it is because not only helps the mitochondria, it also does something so important that if it's not as important as the mitochondria, I mean, both are to me very top in the list of how we help our body internally. So what also NAC does greatly, NAC is a precursor of glutathione. Glutathione? What's glutathione? Okay, glutathione, to say it in a very easy way, is the mastermind, is the head, is the CEO of all the antioxidants we have in our body. So this NAC, when we have it intake, either as a powder or a supplement pill, and as I told you, we already create NAC. So to boost our level of NAC, it helps us boost our levels of glutathione. And glutathione is this mother of all the antioxidants in our body. It's like the little head, the little speaker, the little mastermind that tells all the antioxidants where to go, what to do, what to repair. And that's why NAC is so great. The more NAC you can have inside your body, the more glutathione can be generated, and the glutathione per se can go everywhere or send other antioxidants to the whole body to be repaired and to be regenerated. So have you heard that the skin change? We renew our skin every certain period of time, and as skin cells die, same happens inside our body. So our body is always constantly regenerating, and one way to do it greatly is having with the help of NAC supplementation. When we have NAC inside us, we help every part of our body that has senescent cells. And let me explain you shortly what senescent cells are any cell that already had done its cycle It has short telomeres and whatsoever, but at the end, it will die eventually. So sometimes senescent cells don't have a function per se. Sometimes they become erroneous, or sometimes they just had their cycle, because sometimes we have cycles between certain cells. And when senescent cell doesn't have a function anymore, our glutathione through NAC supplementation help us either make the cell die or help them add them an electron to the cells that are free radicals. So what free radicals are is different, or let's put it in the same spectrum right now, so we can go along on how NAC works. Free radicals are all these cells inside our body that have lost an electron. We should have around pairs of electrons, and when they become impaired, when they lose an electron, they become free radicals, and free radicals help our body oxidize. So it's really bad to have a bunch of free radicals inside us. That's why antioxidants work so great when we have them in our body in a balanced way. We will also say that we don't need to explode ourselves of antioxidants. It's not the only thing that helps our body to recover, but it's really good helping fight free radicals. And NAC, what does, it helps through the glutathione add one electron to those free radicals to then behave behave how they should. Or when it happens, senescent cells will die, and then eventually through the mitochondria we can generate other new cells that are healthy. And that's why it's so good to uncouple our mitochondria every now and then, every day. So that's why NAC is so important to me, and that's why I will mention it as my number one. And I said it 1,000 times already, but that's why it's so important. It helps the two pieces that are inside our body that we need to help the most: our head of antioxidants, which is glutathione, and our mitochondria, which are the little motors that create our energy so the body can react to whatever is happening inside us. And talking this way, I will tell you that why NAT is so good against free radicals, also because adding this electron and becomes them complete and help them do their mission. It also helps at doing that this way. We don't oxidize as easy as without NAC supplementation. So our body oxidizes every single day anywhere. So because we have all these free radicals, there is ROS also, reactive oxidation species, that we have. And so all these processes that happen inside us are, in a certain level, are natural and they have to happen. But then when we have too much oxidation inside our body, because our food, because our intake of alcohol, because our exposure to toxins, and because of stress, I told you before, stress is so damaging for our body. It's not only your brain or your mind, it's also bad for our body. The lack of sleep also. So whenever you add NAC supplementation, it will help anywhere your body is oxidizing, and that is why it's so good. Also, as I mentioned before, when our body oxidizes or have all these processes that need repair, and talking specifically about free radicals, when we have free radicals, or when we have a cell that no longer knows what's good for, no longer knows its function, then because this erroneous part that can alter other good cells. So that's why it's so important to help them to know what they are or get rid of them. Because the miscommunication of cells, the miscommunication of pieces inside our body, guess what? That's what creates sickness. That's what creates diseases. That's how cancer works. When you have a cancerous cell that is erroneous, that behaves wrongly, that overgrows because it has taken its own power, and that's what it shouldn't do. Guess what? It goes around good cells, healthy cells, and make them become cancerous too. So, and is this because there is a miscommunication, and the healthy cell doesn't know that it has to be healthy? So, that erroneous communication that happens between cells is what NAC is good at fighting off. So it helps our body read exactly what it should read in every other cell, in every other system. That's why I love NAC so much. So in that way, let's conclude. And yes, if you're thinking about it, it's right. It helps you fight cancer. It helps you fight so many diseases because the longer you help your body to communicate well, to every cell know what they are, what their function is, and to help them be that good cell, they will know how to react. Sometimes these cells get so confused they don't know what to do. They don't know how to reply to other cells. They don't know how to interact, what chemicals to send or what not. So when you help a free radical be full, or when you help regenerate new cells that are healthy through NAC supplementation, through glutathione and the mitochondria uncoupling, then our body just regenerates well, regenerates in the way it should work. And that's how NAC works fighting against cancer. And I will give you a whole list here. It helps fight xenobiotics, because that's also very important. Anytime we ingest something, we get free radicals, not something that our body doesn't tolerate, something that is not chemically paired, something that is not natural, that is not organic to our body will fight it, right, in a certain way. So that's why it's so good for so many things. And I will tell you other things that it's great for, that it relates, because as I told you, the body and anything inside our body correlates. So let me give you the list here, and then we're going to talk about each of them shortly. It helps fight cancer. It helps with people that have HIV, because guess what? It helps raise our levels of immune system. It helps with inflammation, and that's how it fights the oxidation and the free radicals that we have, so everything behaves better. It helps also with trauma. And I'm talking both kinds of trauma, physical and mental, and we will talk more about it because it's really important. And it also helps burns. Guess why? Of course, because it helps regenerate our cells. It gives that power, the extra boost to our mitochondria, to give that boost to the energy that needs to be sent to our cells. And the glutathione itself, the antioxidants go in there, hey, repair that piece of skin, and that's what happens. So a little list of so many of the things that NAC helps to, and that's why this is my first episode of single supplementation. So if you want to start your supplementation stacking, your nootropic stacking, because guess what? Yes, NAC is also a nootropic. It's a great nootropic. It's great for our brain for many reasons, and that's why it's my first thing in my stack of nootropics and supplementation. So there you go. Let's talk about dosage right now before we continue explaining how good NAC is in our body. So I take 1,000 milligrams daily, so 1 gram daily. I would recommend to everybody to take between 500 milligrams and 1,500, even 2,000 milligrams if you're older, or if you really are in a regime of a lot of training, or a lot of working, mental work, a lot of exercising, a lot of things going on. Up to 2,000, I would recommend it. For all ages, although as you might think, yes, kids don't need NAC, because kids already have high levels of NAC as any other molecule that is created when we are kids. So kids don't need it. You could start taking NAC supplementation from 20 years older. I would recommend for people from 20 to 25 to just have 5 milligrams, because that gap of age, you still have a lot of glutathione production and good levels of NAC. So they go down past 25, they decrease exponentially. So people that are elderly, for 1 gram, 2 gram a day, I think that's a great dosage, and it will help everyone. So if you are under 25, just 500 milligrams. Past 25, 1 gram is my recommendation for everybody to start. You can have it as a powder or as a pill. So it's really good to mix if you use the powder with even plain water in the mornings, because it's odorless and it's tasteless. So you can really use it with anything that you drink, any juice, your coffee, or just plain water. And that's why it's another thing that I would recommend it to start taking it if you're gonna start a regime of supplementations, to just have a better life, to extend your life, to don't get sick, or if you already suffer of a condition, to minimize the problems and help reverse that condition. Also, I will say with NAC, I specifically use it in the morning. As I told you, first thing I woke up, I take my NAC supplement. Why? Because, as I mentioned, it boosts the levels of our mitochondria, so we have more energy. So it's helping, and it's not that's just the energy that when you try to take a Red Bull, that's fake energy. When you try to take something, a caffeine, that it boosts you, it accelerates you. No, this energy is the real energy, is the one that all our body needs. So it's not just that you have that moment of brightness, it's working inside us as good energy, as good full fuel. So that's why I take it in the morning, because I know it's gonna help my whole body the whole day go through any toxin that I intake or I go around, right? So it will help my body repair while I'm in the middle of anything. You could also take it at night, right when you go to bed, if you want just NAC to repair your body instead of just giving you energy and repairing. So those two options will be good, but I prefer it as in the morning, because I know it will be working while I'm awake, while I'm doing things, while I'm using my brain, my body, while I'm physically working on something. So that's why I will suggest it in the morning, and it's very easy to digest. It won't give you problems. I will tell at the end who shouldn't take it, but by for now, almost everyone is very safe. It's a very safe supplement to take, because our body already knows it, our body already takes it, our body already produces, and our body needs it tremendously. Let's talk more about it. It crosses the blood-brain barrier. What that means? It means that when you ingest it, when you have it inside your body, from the blood, it goes straight to the brain. It goes and is bioavailable. So your brain really captures it. That's the whole translation, let's say. So there are so many things that when we ingest them, they don't go straight, they don't convert to what we want to convert. NAC does. And NAC as a supplement is really great. But if you really have a NAC, not a NAC depletion, but a glutathione depletion, I would recommend IV of liposomal NAC. And IV will always go faster and straighter. It's a different dosage too, but in any case, both work really well. I will say also that when you have IV of NAC, if you are really depleted, it will rise. But the same with a pill. If you take a supplement and you are really low on glutathione, on GSH, if you're really low, it will go up even with a pill tremendously, very fast. And we will tell you one specific case, so you really believe it. But with pills, if your glutathione levels are regular, it won't rise dramatically, it won't increment 1,000, but it will do help increment just the right amount your body needs. So it works best when you are glutathione deficient, when you are GSH deficient, and that way you really help people having this problem. And talking along this, I will say that if you know if you are a patient with metabolic syndrome, diabetes type 2, cancer, if you have HIV, most of all these conditions or problems, people tend to have, and specifically, and let's talk now and let's introduce why it's also so good for people with brain diseases and mental diseases. So yes, if you're thinking about it, yes, it helps tremendously with Alzheimer and Parkinson's disease and any neurodegenerative disease. It also helps with mental health. So people suffering of bipolarism, schizophrenia, even to autism, people with OCD, people with addictions. I mean, I'm saying the whole list, and it's true. It helps all of this spectrum of problems, either mental or neurodegenerative. And how it does, it has different ways, but telling you and going back to what I was talking about, the depletion of a GSH, what happens is when your body is depleted of glutathione, when you have very low levels, guess what? If you have a psychiatric problem, as a schizophrenia, it goes very severe. So it is that period of really strong problems when you have the deficient of the depletion of glutathione or GSH. Same happens when you have Parkinson or Alzheimer, or when you have cancer. There are tests that you run and you are GSH depleted. So that's why NAC is really good with all this spectrum of conditions that I just mentioned, because it will help you raise up your levels of glutathione. And what happens with psychiatric problems and why it happens, the severity of the condition, when your GSH levels are down, are very depleted, and your glutamate is very high, these problems happen. So this imbalance is really damaging, it's very dangerous. So that's why you need to raise your levels of GSH, and that's why NAC pill, even the pill, works like this. And that's why you need to take it with any of these conditions. Even if you don't have any of these conditions, just knowing that it will raise up the levels of glutathione, it will help your mitochondria, it will help any other small healthy problem that you will have. Let's say inflammation. People don't think inflammation is a problem, but it's a really big problem because it could become chronic, and when it can become chronic, it could tend or is parallel to other diseases that are major and that are more difficult to get rid of. That's why NAC is so good to repair your body before it gets worse. And that's when it's already in a bad state, like having all these conditions and progressed. It helps them keep lower levels of the problems. Let's say inflammation, let's say problems with the glutamate that is too high, and so on. So that's why I will specifically tell you the first thing that you want to add to your supplement regime and to your supplement stacking, it will be this pill. Let's go on. As I told you, glutathione donates an electron when it sees a free radical, so that way it helps with your levels of antioxidation. Let's say it helps you repair, it helps you just fight whatever you have internally that needs to be helped on. What else we can say? Okay, and this is important, talking about that oxidative stress. As I tell you when we talk about epigenetics, oxidative stress alters the DNA, so it can alter your genetics, and not only the genetics, the epigenetics. So if it alters your DNA or it alters the markers, turns them on and off, that's a problem, right? Because then we suffer the communication problems that these cells have, and that then consequently produce and give us certain diseases or sickness or periods of problems, like the mental problems that people can have. Because as I said before, I do not think that any mental condition it's forever. Whenever, if you ever hear from your doctor, oh, you are bipolar forever, you will never be off it, or you are this, or at a certain point it will be yes if your chemicals cannot be balance. But I do think the body per se can balance the chemicals internally with our help. There are certain therapies, yes, and I will say if you really have a condition when your chemicals are very altered or certain aspects determined, so it's okay to have the prescription your psychiatrist or therapist is giving you. But I don't think either that this should be forever, their prescription, or the thought that your mental health problem is forever. I think it's periods of time that the brain doesn't work well, unless, and this is unless, there is in any part of your brain an overgrowth, an inflammation, a different sizing, because sometimes that happens in our brain, that it differs of what should be normal, and that's why chemicals are produced in a different way, or there is lack of something, and that if it cannot be changed, yes, I would say probably that will last forever. But if it's just chemically, that most are, I think that's only a period of your life. You could go back and reverse it and have good levels of the chemicals and balance them to have a healthier life. So NAC is really good at helping the brain, not only at the mitochondrial, let's say, but also at regulating your brain to work consistently as it should be. And so I will think that if you want to try with NAC, have it. And I will tell here right now why it's so good also with other problems like addiction. So if you know someone that suffers of addiction, either of cannabis, cocaine, nicotine, game, whatever kind of addiction, even people suffering of OCD, when you take NAC supplementation, it helps the body lose that craving. It diminishes the level of the craving that you have for that addiction that you tend to. So if you are really addicted to cocaine, once you start taking NAC supplements, gradually will reverse that necessity of the drug, of that craving that desperately you need. It will lower the levels. Same with cannabis, same with nicotine. So if you are trying to stop nicotine, you try to stop smoking, start taking NAC, and NAC will help you just not crave as much as before. That's why I really think it's a lifesaver if you really want to stop an addiction. Same people suffering with OCD. In the case of OCD, if you are that type of people that you always want these at a certain level, or your sheets at a certain level, at a certain height, whatever that you do, that it consistently has to be one way. And there are many levels of OCDness, but let's say when you want everything perfect, or the light at a certain condition, and or your laptop like this or that, when you start taking NAC supplementation, then you're gonna chill out, you're gonna relax, and you're gonna maybe have something messy and don't be as bothered as before, because you really need to have everything clean and perfect and at certain level and whatsoever, or the kind of OCD that you have. But when you start taking NAC, this will not be as imperative as before. So it will give you more time, more focus in other things that you need to do, rather than just taking care of what your OCD is telling you to do right? What is affecting you at the moment, it will affect you less. Same happens when there is some autism, right? So many kids that have tantrums, and it's part of the spectrum of things that happen with kids in autism. But with NAC supplementation, and I don't recommend for kids, but if you're an adult that has been tested or said your autism, semi-autism, NAC supplementation will help you with not the character per se, but how you take things. So it will help with the behavior of people suffering with autism. And same with cannabis. Okay, if you are just taking cannabis because it relaxes you, it makes you chill, everything is right, try NAC. Try NAC. NAC will help you do that. NAC will help you calm, will help you be chill, will help you relax with any of the other problems that will give you cannabis in a long run. So NAC is really great for that too. It's not like it won't stress you. You won't be stressed. It's just that makes your body more balanced. So it's an addition that is so good to our body in many other aspects. And let me go also to why I'm such a believer of N-Acetyl Cysteine, because and let's talk here the case that I was mentioning, or it's not a case per se, but it's what happens in real life. Have you ever seen people going or know someone that have gone to ER because overdose on pills, right? Unlikely, sometimes people could get to a certain level of desperation or of lack of different balance in their souls, in their minds, that go through this. And when they take too much pills, acetaminophen, when you have an overdose of acetaminophen, guess how you treat the patient once it arrives to ER? What's the first thing that the person gets to ER to not die? It's NAC. NAC supplementation saves so many lives when they are overdosed on acetaminophen because it goes straight to the liver. What happens, people that overdose, is not because per se the pill kills them, is because the liver explodes, because the liver doesn't know what to do. There is so much of something that it doesn't know how to react. There's not enough space. So once everything gets into the liver release is in a very bad moment. And also through the liver, the kidney, because the kidney interacts with the liver so much. So it's like not a backup, but it's like the second part of the process. And then people, even with not just an overdose of one day that you take 20 pills or something, when people suffer a long time of something and they've been prescribed forever and they take 20 pills a day for 10 years, you're going to suffer of renal failure and you're going to die of renal failure. Okay, no matter what, it might be helpful for someone, something in your organism, but then so much toxins that all these pills have over time, they overgrow in our kidney and our liver first, and then our kidney suffers of liver failure. That's why I don't like long-term prescription drugs. I always try to tell anyone suffering any condition, find natural ways to diminish the consumption of prescription drugs. So you could take your prescription drugs certain periods, that stop them and take something organic, something natural, or do therapies without them. And then if you require, go back, but not always, because this makes you suffer of renal failure. But going back to the patient in ER that has consumed acetaminophen pills, when it's NAC inside our bodies, it goes directly to the liver when all these chemicals is making the liver about to explode. Guess what it does? It binds all these unwanted things together, it groups them and then flush them out. It helps your liver recuperate. It helps your liver not take all this damage. So it groups it, it binds it together, and then it's gone. So neither your kidney or your liver will suffer. And that's a good thing about our livers. It will really take care of them. It will really good with our livers. They can heal. That's a great part of our body. It can regenerate. Although if you already have more than half of your liver very damaged, it's gonna be more difficult. And that's one problem the liver has. It doesn't tell you at the beginning that it's bad, it's fatty liver, it's suffering, it's scarred. It will tell you only at the end. That's when people die. So many patients with cirrhosis, and cirrhosis not provoked by alcohol but by the foods. Diabetes dying of cirrhosis, or people with a lot of prescription drugs that also become metabolic syndrome patients and whatsoever, and die from cirrhosis, not from alcohol but from bad eating. So because why? Your liver wasn't detected to be ill until just the very end. So when at the very end it gives all this signaling, and then your doctors know, sometimes it's too late. So we always need to help our liver, even if we don't feel nothing. I bet you, if you eat your fries and eat your burgers and you drink your beer, you probably have some level of fatty liver. So to avoid any problem with the liver and to repair it, NAC supplementation is really, really great, and that's how it works. Immediately when the ER patient is given NAC, won't die, will repair their liver. All these toxins will be binded and leave our body, and that's why it's so good for people that go through this or have problem like cirrhosis. So if you've been detected with cirrhosis or someone that you know, NAC is a great supplementation. I would recommend with people that have cirrhosis to be administered NAC through HIV. Through IV, because it will be direct, so you won't have this problem that goes through the stomach and whatsoever, right? It's always better in certain conditions to have an IV administration. So if it helps your liver, then also helps people with diabetes type 2, with people that suffer of metabolic syndrome. So any condition in the metabolic syndrome sphere, if you have it, take your NAC supplementation. It will help you also really well. And so let's say how many organs I have mentioned already. We have said the liver, the kidney, the brain. Also, talking about the brain before we go through another aspect of how NAC help us. In our brain, and as I mentioned first, our way of through the mitochondria that is being helped through NAC, and also how it helps mental conditions. It also helps with neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer and Parkinson. In the case of Alzheimer, it helps slower or graduate the loss of memory. So if you already know someone or you suffer or you start suffering of Alzheimer, NAC supplementation will help you don't lose memory too fast, or even retain the level of memory that you have. Alzheimer is a really difficult condition once it's progressed, when there is a lot of amyloid plaque inside the brain, but NAC helps patients lose their memory less. So that's why it's so important. And also because it helps with the levels of glutamate. So it balances the glutathione versus the glutamate, and that's how it works. And also with people suffering Parkinson, it not only helps in the level of nerve damage, but it also helps with tremors. So if you know or you suffer with tremors, NAC supplementation will lower them dramatically. It won't bother you as much. It will help you control your tremors way better. So that's why it's so good, this pill. And I mentioned a million times, it's my favorite. N-Acetyl Cysteine NAC supplementation, and that's my first recommendation to anyone. That's why I start my episodes of single supplements through NAC. Let's go further. Let's talk how, as I said, also how it fights oxidation, and it helps free radicals, and it also helps the body regenerate. It also blocks COX-2 reaction NF, so also helps lower the levels of interleukin-6. So as I mentioned, it's a marker for inflammation, and if you always can find something that can lower the levels of these markers that are very dangerous in our body, also it lowers the level of C-reactive protein. So if you lower CRP, you lower interleukin-6, you lower COX-2, you are doing your body a regeneration of everything. So that's why it's so important. When you lower these markers, your body works better. Your body is being helped to regenerate, to renew, to work as it should be. That's why it's so important. And let's go to another in between what we are talking about, these markers, it also helps with DNA injury. As I said, when you have a problem of damaged DNA or damaged epigenetics through oxidation or whatsoever arrest, this helps reverse, not reverse, let's say, if you have a genetic condition, but it helps with DNA injuries, and that's really great because it's something major for the whole body per se in the long run. And let's go now through another organ or part of our body, and probably if you never take supplements, if you probably browse around supplements and you take your multis and you take whatever you think you need, and you know that you've seen NAC but you don't know what is what, I'm telling you right now what is it for. But if not, if you had heard about it maybe in the time of COVID, but guess why? Because some doctors and certain clinics, hospitals were using NAC for the symptoms of COVID. So probably you heard from it that it helped COVID. Specifically, there were no, let's say, indications to use a NAC as a cure, but it did help so much this whole respiratory system, and in many levels. First, and not only in the case of COVID, let's go to the whole range. So here it first helps to our mucous membranes. So whenever they are problematic, when we have phlegm, when they are inflamed and so on, NAC supplementation helps take all the phlegm, all whatever is thick there, whatever is condensed, to make it fluid and be flushed out, also being off our body. That's one of the things. It's a mucolytic, so it really helps in that way. But not only that, if you suffer from sinus or allergies, guess what? It also helps the nasal internal areas. So whenever you feel here really bad through pollen, through whatever allergy you think you have sinus, you have whatsoever, take NAC supplementation, it will go away. It will help you breathe better and don't feel the symptoms. Also, yes, we are going here, we go down. Yes, it helps our lungs. It helps them so much that even can help fibrosis. And fibrosis, either, and NAC, let's say now, talking about fibrosis, it helps with cystic fibrosis, with lung fibrosis, and fibrosis per se, take your NAC supplementation. Now, having lung fibrosis is something that grows over time, so people can develop it since very young, and they don't suffer from it until very late when it grows, when it expanded. So it's always good to prevent, even if we don't know if we have it or not, through NAC supplementation. NAC not only helps the pulmonary tract, but it does. It helps our pulmonary tract, it helps our lungs, it helps us breathe better, it helps take everything off that it shouldn't be there, and it helps us breathe and feel better. That's why it was used in the times of COVID, and that's why it helped so many people, let's say, additionally to whatever it was needed, right? That's why it's another way to help your body if you suffer all of those conditions, also with people with asthma. And let's go now to, as I mentioned, if you think someone or you are anxious or you suffer of depression, or you are in a moment of your life that you feel a little down, a little depressed, because sometimes we all suffer at a certain time of that. But if you suffer as a condition of depression, if you already go through therapy, or if you are just in a moment, or you are anxious and you've been anxious all your life, NAC supplementation will help you in the spot as well. Do you remember when I mentioned ginger and then that it rises your levels of dopamine? Guess what? Through NAC and the pathways it works, it helps us rise our levels of dopamine as well. So it helps with depression and it helps with anxiety. So that's why it's so great. It helps just so many things. I mean, I just spoke so many organs and systems that NAC help really a lot. So if you are really down today, or you know someone that does, go teach them, tell them NAC supplementation is really safe for a lot of people and a lot of a spectrum of problems, and go ahead and have it, take it, or make someone ingest it if you know they are suffering anything of the things we have mentioned here. Also helps with mental cognition. So it helps all this range of problems that we can develop in our brain, right? The more that we help our nerves, and talking about nerves, guess what? It helps, and a lot of people suffer of this, and they don't do anything, or if they do, they just go to the chiropractor, and sometimes it just works for a week or a period of time, and then they are well, and then it goes back again. It helps with sciatica nerve. So you have problems with the sciatica, you have pain here, you have whatsoever, NAC will also help you in the ways that I mentioned, how it helps other problems. So it really is a winner. I will mention he's a winner because it does all these elements of repair everywhere. It's not just one organ, it's all the organs and in many levels. So that's why I choose always NAC as my number one supplement. I won't say that anymore, I promise. It also says that prevents cancer. It binds poisonous forms of toxins through our body. It also, let me see something I haven't mentioned. I also mentioned that it helps the levels of glutamate. It supports and increases our levels of immune system. So, and this is where we're going to talk about HIV patients. We are not anymore in the times of Freddie Mercury, when people died of HIV because their immune system was really low and there weren't mechanisms to counteract that. So they will really catch anything and just die. Nowadays, there are so many ways to have a healthier lifestyle and living healthy when people suffer of HIV. But guess what? If you know someone or you are suffering or having HIV, because you don't suffer anymore, with ways nowadays people can live longer, NAC also help you live longer once you have HIV. So it's been studied, it's been researched, that it adds up 2 years of lifespan to people with HIV. So that's really great. And not only that, it helps the quality of life. Also with people suffering Alzheimer, Parkinson, of any mental disease. it helps your quality of life. So who doesn't want to have better quality of life, right? And in the same way, add some years to your life is you feel healthy. So that's a really great great way that NAC helps people suffering of all these diseases. Let's see if I don't forget anything, because I really wanna go through everything that we should know. It also lowers the levels of hydrogen peroxide. So we also create hydrogen peroxide in our body, and it also will oxidize us. So it also lowers those levels. So that's why it's also great. And okay, let's go now. And you might think right now, if I mentioned before and you were paying attention and you know about amino acids, that I told you that N-Acetyl Cysteine comes from L-cysteine, which is an amino acid. You might ask, why don't I just take L-cysteine, right? Well, L-cysteine, it oxidizes really quickly in our body. Therefore, it's not really that bioavailable as NAC is. NAC is slow in our body, so as the way is being slow, our body receives it better in a way that it doesn't oxidize as fast as LCs. So directly LCs, if you ingest it, not the one that you have inside, but the one as ingested, it will oxidize quickly, so it wouldn't give the function of having then N-acetylcysteine and then glutathione. So, but if you take NAC, that's more consistent to having in our body and then creating glutathione and helping our mitochondria. So L-cysteine, the one that we have inside already, it will work. If we administer it, it wouldn't work as good as NAC. That's why we wouldn't take NAC. But if you want to eat foods, and I always suggest that having natural things is better, is first. But as I mentioned also, we need supplements to add on, because sometimes our foods are depleted of the nutrients that we need because of the conditions of the soil and the conditions of the animals that are being raised. Let me tell you which foods have L-cyst that organically will then become N-acetylcysteine. So we have some of my favorites, and they are my favorites, yes. First, the one that I told you is a superfood for me, and I think it's great, eggs. So yes, eggs have NAC, have N-acetylcysteine, so eat your eggs, that's great. Also, another of my favorites, cheese. Cheese also has great levels of LCs, so it will help you create NAC. Yogurt, let's do natural yogurt, no added sugars. Greek yogurt is great. Organic yogurt, just not added sugars. The more natural, the better. The less ingredients that they have, the better. So have your yogurt too. Yogurt is really good with LCs. Also, legumes. I don't mostly eat legumes. To me, in my regime, I don't try to eat them because of the other reasons, and we will talk later. When I crave for one or the other, I will do, but it's not in my plan or diet. But they also contain LCs if you eat them. Or if you crave for one today, go ahead, you're gonna have some LCs inside you. And then chicken and turkey. Chicken and turkey also have L-cysteine. So if you wanna go ahead and eat your chicken or your turkey. I will suggest also to find your chicken or turkey, buy it pasture raised. Read the labels, read where they come from. Don't just free range or free cage, because guess what? The more nature their food is, and those are the ones that are pasture raised because they eat from the soil, the grass, the whatever they feed them, green. They are healthier in a way that when you eat a chicken or a turkey that is from the cage, free range or whatsoever, they are being fed with grains. Yes, even those that are free range, because the problem is that this labeling, it's only certain hours of the day that they are free, but then they are being put inside somewhere, eating something, and guess what they are eating? Grains. Okay, I like grains, but grains have a lot of omega-6. So instead of your chicken giving you levels of omega-3, it will give you levels of omega-6. And we don't need omega-6 anymore. We don't need more of it. We already have a lot of it in any or other food that we have, especially if it's processed. So most of the processed foods, it's only omega-6 that you are ingesting, and most people have more higher levels of omega-6. So avoid your omega-6 through your chicken, turkey, and whatsoever. Choose pasture-raised animals so they won't be fed with omega-6. And going back to those are and one of my favorites too, I mentioned it before, sunflower seeds. Sunflower seeds also contain L-cysteine, and also do them raw, buy them raw, not with canola oil, not roasted, raw please. And that's the way you don't get extra omega-6 that we don't really need. Okay, so we talk about a lot of things, and I will go through. Okay, so for people, as I mentioned, with that helps the lung, it helps conditions as chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. It also helps with chronic bronchitis. So it will help you with both also the allergies as we mentioned, asthma and pulmonary fibrosis. So it's really, it does it all. It's a machine. It really is a machine. It does her all. We already mentioned. Oh, and there is something here I haven't. So this is something new. Come ahead, but it's related. As I told you, everything in our body is correlated. So if you ever had a Japanese doctor or studied something of Japanese medicine or Oriental medicine, you will understand it more, that anything in our body is linked. So our eyes are linked with our hands, and our hands are linked with our feet and whatsoever. So that's why when something works, it will work for the whole body, and that's how NAC works. It works everywhere. So we were mentioning it helps with people suffering of diabetes type 2 or suffering with metabolic syndromes. But how? Because it really helps our insulin receptors. So having our insulin receptors damaged, that's how the blood level, the level of sugar in our blood gets really high. The insulin doesn't, there is insulin resistance. So you have this disbalance between the sugar and the insulin, and that's how diabetes works, right? So when you help your receptors of insulin, you're gonna help control the levels of blood sugar. So that's really great for people suffering diabetes, or for people with metabolic syndrome, or just if you had a donut right now. So today I told you I was eating bad this week because I was around, I wasn't outside, so I crave for little damaging things, but I never stopped taking my NAC. So I know that I still get the oxidative stress that I shouldn't, but the NAC will help me fight it. So in days like that, your NAC supplementation works well. The plan is to have it daily. So either having a healthy diet and lifestyle, or when you are not, right? So in that way, it helps our levels of sugar in our blood. Also helps the inflammation in fat tissue, so it will also that way help your fatty liver, because people suffering with diabetes type 2 or metabolic syndrome tend to have, or obesity tends to have fatty liver. Also, and this part is great, if you're worried about your heart, we haven't mentioned heart, here I am telling you it helps your heart also. So how it works with any heart disease. It helps the membranes of your heart to not become that hard, that strong. So it helps with the tissue of the heart, and that's really great. That's because when your heart start having this thickness in the membranes, and it cannot do that normal functions it does, because it's harder, guess what? NAC helps have your tissues in the way they can interact, and so that's how it works, basically. So it helps also with heart diseases like strokes, heart attacks, and other severe conditions, because it's helping your tissue become healthier, become the thickness it needs, the level it needs. And then I'm gonna go now for something that I haven't mentioned. So I mentioned so many organs, and let's go down. Those males that really love to have kids, I want to have kids, I want to have 1,000 kids. Guess what? Good news. You want to have 1,000 kids, take your NAC supplementation. NAC is so good for fertility in male. It's really great. So what NAC does with male, in their fertile years, it helps repair and it helps liberate free radicals from your reproductive system. So when you have a lot of free radicals in your system, then your sperm is not as strong. So when you clean, let's say you liberate of free radicals your reproductive system, guess what? That sperm is gonna work in a minute. So let's use NAC supplementation for male. They want to be fertile, they want to have kids, go ahead. And in the same way, women that suffer of polycystic POS, you can take your NAC and it will help you also with your cysts in your ovaries. It will do, and it will also not just help them, it will also be good for the fertility of women of older age. So if you think you cannot have kids anymore, guess what? NAC also will be a supplementation that helps you. It will help the oocytes inside you, so it will help you with your ovaries and the oocytes, and you can have the kids that you want. So it's not a matter of age now, it's a matter of how you take care of yourself and how you want to procreate. So for people that think they passed their years, no, you can do, and I will do a whole list of supplements for women to really have the eggs that you need to procreate. So I will tell you right now NAC, and a second one that also is good for the condition we mentioned before, heart. And if you already had a heart problem, a stroke, you know that you have to take your CoQ10. So it also, CoQ10 and NAC are two best friends for our heart. It will also be great for your ovaries and for that part of reproduction for women. So if you are a woman, take your CoQ10 and take your NAC, and then you will have the kids that you want, no matter the age. And this is the whole factor. I think I haven't stopped mentioning any other organ that we need. Is very vital, right? We use all the heart, the lungs, the kidneys, the brain, the ovaries, the male reproduction system, whatsoever. Also, and let's go, it will help our gut too. So there is a correlation of our microbiota with our mitochondria. There is some mitochondria in our gut. So, and they're alongside the bacteria that is in our gut. And so they communicate. And when your mitochondria is really healthy, and when you uncouple your mitochondria, it helps your microbiota and your microbiomes in your gut. It helps to have good gut. So the better your gut is, the healthier it is, everything will function best too, because you will get all the nutrients that you need, you will block all the toxins that you don't need, and if your gut is that administrator of everything and it's healthy, therefore your body will be healthy because it will receive what it needs from the foods that you eat or whatever supplementation that you take. It will make them bioavailable because there is no damage inside the gut, or there is not bad microbiota that treats you like a host and then tells you to feed sugar and tells you what so many damaging things that your body then gets oxidized. So less oxidation through good microbiota, through good mitochondria, through NAC supplementation. That's how it works. And I think I mentioned almost everything. I think we really, and last thing I want to mention, and these are cases. So we have already mentioned that rats are really kind of similar to humans in a way how the body works. Researchers have done that NAC have helped with liver fibrosis in rats, cystic fibrosis in humans, also diabetic complications in rats, and also have helped with sciatic nerve. So there have been researches that really have been very good results with NAC supplementation. So we have done the whole list. And one other fact between animals, NAC also protected animals that were exposed to pesticides like fipronil, glyphosate, parafusil, sonatia, rifamycin, sulfalecin, or tetracycline. And we know that if animals have been exposed to these pesticides, and we really don't know what we have in our fruits or animals that we eat. So it's always good to have NAC supplementation, because if whatever we were affected by these pesticides, guess what? NAC helps protect your body from it. If it doesn't in animals, it probably doesn't in us, right? So just to be aware of it. And just to finalize everything, NAC has these ways that all I have said, it becomes into this way, is redundant of disulfide bonds, especially intracellularly when they are in high concentrations. It also is a scavenger of reactive oxygen species, ROS, and all what have we talked about, oxidation, free radicals, and whatsoever. And it's the precursor of glutathione biosynthesis. So that's the three ways. And talking about ways, NAC, why is that great? Because it works in all the pathways. It's not only one pathway, it helps all the pathways in our body. So that's why it helps the whole system, the whole body, our skin, burns, whatever, right? Our ovaries, our brain, our heart. It helps all the pathways. It goes through all the pathways. It crosses the blood-brain barrier. So it really my number one. And okay, this is the last time I say it, NAC supplementation, 1 gram a day, powder or pill, just take it. You will help your body dramatically. Lastly, I will mention, as I said before, people that shouldn't take NAC. If you suffer of blood thinning disorders, blood clots, and you're going through warfarin or any blood thinning medication, you shouldn't take your NAC directly. Consult it with your doctor if there is a good level of NAC that you could take, or just don't take it while you're taking that medication or you're having blood thinning problems. Also, there are certain conditions that are genetical that shouldn't be using NAC. So if you have any demonstrated genetic condition, research if your genetic condition it suffers of anything when you take NAC supplementation. And also some people will have some rash or some nausea, but that's really a very, very, very small percentage of the population. Most people won't react to NAC because it's really safe for everybody, because it's really available. We cross our blood-brain barrier and we already produce it. We already have it in our body. So therefore, there you go. My first supplement of the list of single supplements episodes that I will be doing, and then there are a bunch of them. It's a nootropic, I will also say. Yes, so if you are looking for nootropics and help your brain boost, yes, it helps you boost your brain, be more focused, be faster, be better thinking, have no blur, no problems. They don't get any cloud in your brain, because NAC will help the free radicals go away and you think really fast. So if you are in a period that you're studying or you're in a project at work that really needs your mind 100%, take your NAC supplementation. And that's how it ended. It's a great nootropic. It's a great supplement for a life extension, a lifesaver, life health conditions. Any condition, it will help everything. It will help your body, and it will help become you, the best you, and to have a greater, longer, safer life. So I hope you enjoy this supplement and buy it immediately and use it daily. There is no worries about the safety. It's very safe. So start your supplementation or stack it additional to whatever you're taking right now with Nac N-Acetyl Cysteine. And that's how I want you to become the best you. I see you soon. Bye bye.